Terrorists wish they could go to genocide levels. Millions massacred at their hands. Millions. People just think that Islam is just rose petals with Hajj ice cream and this fantasy every day and every night. We just want to go with our favorite speaker. Bro, that's the worst person to go with. Do not go with the Hajj with your favorite speaker. It wouldn't get to the ideological levels. It wouldn't get to what I call white collar deviance. White collar deviancy is the stuff that happens in our grammar schools and whatever, where the aqidah gets destroyed and sexuality and whatever. Now, that white collar kind of deviancy is now no longer. Come on, Bismillah, barakum.
Oh, we started a while ago.
I forgot how it starts.
I got the Assalamu alaikum, brothers and sisters. Look who we found wandering around the streets, Omar.
Literally, by the way.
Yeah, literally, mashallah, wandering around this, looking for a Spanish latte.
Ice.
Mashallah. Ice Spanish latte.
All about the ice.
Yeah, he's a cool guy.
For non-US audience, right? We don't mean ice, as in the US version, right?
Okay.
No one's getting picked up on the streets around here, alhamdulillah.
Alhamdulillah, alhamdulillah. So, Assalamu alaikum, Shaykh Abu Eesa Niamatullah. Mashallah.
Eesa.
I was being...
Just, is that because we're in here? Eesa. Is that like a... we're in Wahid's thingy here, by the way.
No,
okay.
cut that bit out unless they pay us.
Yeah, we want money for that.
Yeah, checks in the post.
Everyone's on our face now. Ken, Habib and whatever. Where's our cut?
Exactly.
I just literally renamed myself Abu Eesa and I get nothing for it.
Yeah,
you're just behind Pogba. Sure.
Is that?
Yeah.
There was nothing until he said the right thing the other day. He said that Bruno Fernandes is top tier Ballon d'Or. And I've been saying that for donkey's years, man.
Yeah.
Bruno, people only realize once he goes, what a player. Everyone's all gassed about his, assists and all the rest of it now, but as a player, he'll go down as one of the GOATs of Man United, 100%.
Next to Cantona.
Honestly, literally Cantona level.
Mashallah.
Cantona
the only
level.
other player I know.
Yeah.
So
you said earlier you're a United fan, bro.
Yeah, that's when Cantona was playing.
Okay,
so
well,
that's the whole...
I don't think anyone wants to hear us talk about Man United and your lame knowledge about it.
Yeah, so... How's it going, Omar?
Alhamdulillah, all well.
Take the heat off me a bit.
No, come on, bro. Bismillah.
So I just said politely, next time you're in town, let's do a podcast. And he said yes. So I had to lug all of this stuff into central London during the congestion charge.
MashaAllah.
So you're welcome.
Barakallah. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala reward you.
Ameen. And you for your gracious acceptance. So what have you been up to? Do you know the last time we spoke?
I want to say COVID.
Yeah, but that was like distance,
I don't even know what
social
COVID
distancing.
was that 22, 21?
That was, if it was real, it was 2020.
2020,
Beginning of
yeah.
2020.
And that was online.
Yeah.
Yeah, and
that was a socially distanced.
I think in person, probably a couple of years before that?
Yeah. So we're all
in the bubble
7-8 years older, wiser.
MashaAllah. You're looking good, by the way.
Jazakallah khair. My wife gave me a shirt a nice iron shirt
MashaAllah.
to wear, but I left it in the car.
How's your eyesight?
But,
my eyesight's horrible.
Alhamdulillah. Oh, right. Just like that.
Your eyesight. Would you like to upgrade it? You get 20,000 per year, tax free.
These little jokes here, whatever, right? From eyesight to eyesight to this, that, whatever. Yeah. A lot of people miss it and they get irritated at it.
Yeah.
They think that we're just doing inside jokes all the time.
We'll be serious.
There is a thing, by the way. Londoners can operate almost at a subliminal level when it comes to comedy.
Definitely.
Right, and it just actually sounds like a sound that the other guy made, but it was a full statement. The other one got it. He makes a sound grunt backwards. It's another full statement. Everyone else is getting super irritated. Like, what the hell is this? This yani Deen or this a podcast or what is it?
But isn't it like, this about the British, they have a way of really putting someone down, and unless you know British culture, you wouldn't know. You'd think it's nothing, but the person's so offended.
That was a very good point you made just there.
Thank you very much. But isn't it? You take that back, right? British have this amazing way of doing it. Well, anyway, alhamdulillah.
So, yeah, you're right. Long time. Everything definitely moves on in terms of age, health, this, that. SubhanAllah, I went to the dentist the other day and parked. I have recently bought one of these Chinese EV cars, whatever. Parked it up and went inside. And I've been saying for years that I'm finished, dementia's kicking in, I'm forgetting everything. But when you're saying it and you remember maybe an ayah or a hadith, or you lead the salah and it goes without incident, you're like, oh, maybe it's not that bad. Maybe I'm just exaggerating, maybe I'm just moaning publicly and just trying to get sympathy. Went into the dentist, come out, I had absolutely no idea where my car was. Wallahi, you talk about walking the streets. I walked like a homeless man, up, down, left, right, center for half an hour, convinced that the car had been stolen, because I'm like going to the place where I thought it was and it's not there. And just going around, like maybe within a kilometer, just going around. And subhanAllah, I thought to myself, this EV business, it must have a app or something that has got function. So I opened the app and it said car location, and opened it up in Google Maps and it sent me there. Sick. Absolutely, I was buzzing. So this what is it? Tesla.
Yes.
Does it have self-driving in this country? Is it done?
Not fully autonomous.
But we mean it's waiting for legislation, or it can't do it?
No, it's got it, but it's not unlocked for here. So legislation. So you have to keep your hand on it, and there's certain things, but it won't fully drive by itself.
So it can't do. I was thinking about it the other day.
They do charge you like 5k extra
for the service.
When you buy it.
Bro, I'd pay it.
But
I'm that customer.
The law isn't there.
I need obviously an exemption to your boycott, whatnot. Elon Musk, we'll fall in love with them again, or Dorura for me anyway. Imagine that it could be doing like a night rider job where you call it and it comes and picks you up. That'd be great for me, bro.
If it speaks to you, then I'm sold. If
I
it
was
helps you
thinking
fight
second
crime.
income Ubering from home, innit?
Bro, how many people are doing Ubering?
Everyone's going to get finished. That's going to get finished. One brother, he recently told me the reason why they did all the 20 mile an hour zone in London is to prepare
for a slower robo-taxi type.
Robo-taxi. It's like 100,000 Muslims are going to be out of a job like that.
It's about time people stop looking down on plumbers, leckies, builders.
They're going to be gone soon as well.
No, they're not.
Soon.
No, they're not.
No.
That's what everyone's saying.
You know Abid Karim?
Yes, yeah, of course.
Yeah, he sent me the sickest message the other day. A proper analysis, actually.
AI-proof jobs.
Correct.
Yeah, and he's the head of, I think it was Microsoft, one of the guys from Microsoft that did it for his daughter.
Yes.
And he went through it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And it is so good. ai-career-playbook.netliffy.app. If you stick that into Google, you'll find it. AI Career Advisor.
It rolls off the tongue.
Yeah, not the easiest anything, but it's a really, really good thing. Yeah, my 16-year-old daughter Thea had sights set on a career in finance, and then I said, right, this is what you're going to do, this is what you're not going to do, and she did the full behavior. Do you use that AI?
It's a good tool to make things more efficient. But I think it's a tool it can't replace at the moment. Some people may do it, but it's obvious. But just like Excel, like using Excel as a tool or PowerPoint, it's very useful.
Nah, man, it's crazy the amount of people that I speak to, Tulab al-ilm, du'at, scholars that are using that left, right, center. I've been left way behind. I ain't got a clue what was going on. I mean, I've had a bad experience. I used it in one of the projects we were doing for Hajj last year, and one of the team used it to do his portion of the hadith referencing.
Yeah.
And he sent it to me. It was the worst mistake ever for me to read it, because once you've read the first mistake and you're going by your memory, which you don't trust anyway, and then you're like, I can't remember the hadith being, that word having a kasra and fatha, which is a difficult thing anyway, because most Arabic words have some acceptable variation with a dhamma, kasra, fatha in the word. So you're always doubting yourself that maybe that is an accepted version. So it'd be nice to just let that go. But it was in my head, and I went and then I checked Shamila, and it was it had done this hallucination or whatever it's called.
Yeah, hallucination.
And that was it then. Once that happens you've lost your confidence. Then I went through and I found about 50 mistakes in a high quality checking thing. So you've got to be using
You're going to keep on top of
such a targeted way. And then I'm like, what's the point then? What's the point if you're putting so much time in to check? I do it myself, forget it.
There is work being done to have genuinely Islamic AI, which its source material and source references is closed.
For logical progression, there's someone that obviously trying to do that for to try to get a quick answer. And there's a sister actually who approached me with a project, and again, and it had all of the Shamila, all of the Kuwaiti Encyclopedia, so thousands of books.
Yeah.
And amazing in the way that it's able to even accept a written English prompt, transmit it in Arabic to the source or whatever, I don't know what it's doing, and then getting back the sources, but there's no methodology. So it's bringing you everything or something specific that you ask for. And unless you are very educated in what you specifically ask for, like if you are that miskeen and said, give me the Hanafi opinion on so-and-so, it's making the decision on which Hanafi books to choose or not. It doesn't know enough about the Hanafi school to know which is al-Mufta bihi, al-Mu'tamad, the one which is blah, blah.
Isn't it just a matter of time though until it does know that?
But someone will have to teach it that.
I mean, it just
and
gets
that makes it subjective, right? Someone will have to go in and say that I don't want you to prioritize the books of the 17th century of Hanafi fiqh, but I do want you to prioritize. They'd have to create a system. Now, some Hanafis will say, well, we already have. We would consider, for example, Sarakhsi to be at the front, and we would consider blah, 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 blah. And so I can see it working in a very restricted way with very educated people. But I don't know how the masses are going to...
So you mentioned, there's a good segue, logical progression there, you snuck it in. When my second son was born 14 years ago, on that same day or around about that time, my wife was logged into this thing called logical progression. And it's been 14 years. He's a 14-year-old strapping young lad, mashallah. And so is your project. From what I understand, and it's the mother of all fiqh classes. What is it? How would you describe it?
So,
because it is an achievement, mashallah.
Mashallah, it is. Muhammad Sharif, alayhi rahmatullah. I remember that we, at Maghrib, Al-Maghrib, we were sitting there. It was him, myself, Sheikh Walid, Sheikh Yasser, and Ali and Noor, those who run thingy. And I think Sheikh Naved actually was there as well. There was a discussion about what is the next step for Al-Maghrib in terms of on-site seminars. And that was still when double weekend seminars were the only thing. Even single weekends were not even a thing at that time. But there was a recognition, and I want to say this is about 16, 17 years ago, right? That we need to offer an online offering. But at that time, there was no real online space or whatever. Even like the professional kind of master classes that people see now, even that wasn't a thing. And at that time, I'd been thinking about it for a while as well. And outside of Al-Maghrib, we had been using, what was that thing called? Paltalk. I was about to say
I remember that.
Paltalk. So that's what we were using for transmitting lessons and having a room and, some kind of control. And so Muhammad Sharif was always a real believer in not diversifying. Right? He was really, he was all about, so he made his Discover You program, which was more about professional kind of, the professional side of life coaching or whatever. And which I used to hate as an idea, with that neurolinguistic NLP class and whatnot. It's so anti all that, and maybe still am. But the one thing that he did, which I really liked, is that he said, we're not going to let this get in the way of Al-Maghrib. So he created a whole separate team to deal with it, right? So different, whatever. And it did really well, and it produced a lot of, khair. And that wasn't what he was seeing in the online kind of arena. He said that that's going to mess up our on-site kind of offering. So I said, you know what? Leave this with me then. Let me run this, because I'm already teaching regular. I was teaching Umdatul Fiqh, Umdatul Fiqh at that time, which is another Hanbali text, another
Adab al-Mufrad as well.
Adab al-Mufrad as well, which was online. It's funny that you mentioned that, because he's talking about health, but we'll come back to that in a minute. And the idea is that let's make a program, which I wanted to do anyway. I wanted to upgrade the fiqh text from Umdatul Fiqh to something like Zad al-Mustaqni', which is it is still a Hanbali fiqh text, but it's more in depth. And more than that, it allows for a more comprehensive commentary to be brought forward. And for me, it's never, anyone who knows from the original Al-Adab al-Mufrad days, whether logical progression, whether it's never about the class. The Hajj, for example, is never about the Hajj. It's about the opportunity to have people in a position of trust, and then transferring as much possible information and real-time kind of wisdom and experience. That's what tarbiyah is. So you can either give it in person, or you can give it using the shell of a class. And so, yes, it might be about fiqh, but if we get a moment, possibility to speak about politics or aqeedah, then we're going to do it. And Shaykh Uthaymeen is one of the few scholars that didn't hold back on something like that. So we're speaking about something like this, but he'll bring in other issues, which makes it so much more interesting. People speak about Shaykh Muhammad Mukhtar al-Shanqiti in Medina, teaching all the lessons that he's been teaching. People said that we never sat in a lesson like his, which is dry fiqh, because he brings a lot of ruhaniyah and spiritual aspects through, which is not what you're expecting. Especially when fiqh is meant to be for kindergarten level kids. You're meant to just learn it rote, and there's not meant to be extras in there. But the adult learning experience for the Muslim diaspora is a very different one, where we're studying that as adults, and we don't learn fiqh like you're meant to learn it in the Muslim countries or Muslim syllabi abroad. And so it does need, and obviously in the age of edutainment and adult kind of, attention spans, you do need to make it something bigger. So I said, let me continue with that itself and let it be the long distance Al-Maghrib program. Prophetic Guidance is already teaching lessons as it is. So we just merged it, we created logical progression, and very easygoing class, not restricted to any particular madhab or anything like that. And the promise was to the student that I would not, let the project down, whether it's one person at the other side of the camera or in person, or when it started off it was like 11,000, right? It was a lot of students. That was a lot of jazba at the time, including people who had a child 14 years ago, and they just wane away, but that's okay.
I never actually attended a single lesson.
That's
My
very
wife
nice.
did. I think
Even less as much.
I would have. I didn't know how to.
Listen, it's tough.
Get into
it's everything which is consistent and regular is tough to commit to. And I knew that, but it's being recorded and it's got a podcast and it's got the whatever. People don't need to have to kill themselves to attend, especially with this international audience. It's in the middle of the working day for Americans. Very tough for them to be there. Malaysians, we used to have a lot of students there, still do. They need to catch up on the recording next day as well. And so therefore we are having to obviously recognize that not everyone's going to be attending, but as long as we keep it consistent. We've just completed 14 years, alhamdulillah, like right now. And subhanAllah, we've just completed the book of prayer. So out of those 14 years, like nearly 10 was just a bit, just on the book of Salah. And so we start the next chapter. And it's got a great community, Telegram community. Omar, obviously, mashallah, is part of that community in an active way, meaning that...
Thanks for inviting me.
You've got to bring something, bro. You've got to bring something to the party. What are you going to bring?
Anti-inflammatory juices.
You'll keep on interrupting the messages.
Yeah, exactly. That's what you're going to bring. No,
well, so
everybody obviously has a role. You've got a tech team that has produced an app. App's great. Now we've got an AI tool of sorts that sorts through it as well. We've got the students on the Telegram group to answer people's questions. Umar does the Islamic finance and the various kind of muamalat issues that pop up. And the reason that I went into this detail is that in a time where there's very little good news, about Muslims being divided and, all the fitna that's happening online, social media and Gen Z and Gen Alpha and Baqwasi and how rubbish they are and everyone cussing each other. There are some good stuff, that we should celebrate.
Sure.
14 years, a long time.
Phenomenal.
I feel bad for having any hardball questions now about LP.
No, but I wanted to say actually, and you mentioned the word community, and I think that's what's phenomenal about it. You feel so connected to the other students, like you kind of know them. A bit of their personality comes through on the way they ask questions or message, etc. And as kind of society drives us towards being more and more fractional and kind of individualistic, we all are part of a global ummah. And you actually feel it because you're engaging with someone who's in Timbuktu, the middle of Africa, and someone who's in India, and someone who's in Malaysia, and in the US, and UK as well. And it's just phenomenal, alhamdulillah.
And that's not random, by the way. What I mean by that is that any project that I get involved in, I try to make it one of its objectives to try to inspire folks to create community.
Yeah.
And what I mean by that is that, like, that community that you see in Telegram on the logical progression group, there's two things that are at the forefront of my mind when that's happening. The first is that people have got to recognize just how much folks have, not just in common, but can benefit from one another, and that this is not exclusive to just this online kind of gathering here, but you can produce that in your own locality.
Yeah.
Right? And that's coming. So I enjoy that in my own local Cheadle community.
Yeah.
Every program that I do, whether it's an Aqsa, an Umrah, a Hajj or whatever, we create a Telegram community in the same way. And when we're on site, wherever the location is, we're doing the same thing. And that needs a few things. It needs a lot of trust. It needs me to obviously put a lot of effort in and to not, be offhandish and highbrow. And I got to get involved, which is easy for me because that's where the fun is anyway. It's no fun any being, holier than thou. I don't even know why people would do that, even if they believe that they are holier than everybody else. It's so boring to be that person. And honestly, custom is like, how could you go and do da'wah and do ibadah, congregational acts, and not have a laugh and not bear a banter and not be with the people and be separate and be whatever. So meaning that's got to be able to be seen in even those online portals or gatherings in which they can't have the physical benefits because of a reason. But the second thing is that it's got to be open and inviting enough for anybody to be able to step in at any time. It can't be cultish. Yeah. Right? And that's a big thing with logical progression, because a lot of people say, what? 14 years, right? And when you hear 14 years, if you were to hear of a degree that's 7 years and you're in the year 3, you're not applying for that degree, let alone an online course which is 14 years in. And they'll be like, right, well, this is done. We're like, no. Everybody can join any lesson. You'll see that the way that it's structured is that your learning will start from there. And there are notes for every single lesson, and there are summaries for every single year. So a person can catch up with all 14 years in maybe a couple of hours.
Really?
A couple of hours, yeah, because we produce a summary document for each year, right? That's the only way for a person to be able to feel like, and there are some people, especially those in the States,
I'm going to join, inshallah.
Bro, we could make it into minutes and you're not joining, bro. In the States, they've got all that time, right? They drive for hours and they actually catch up with all the lessons. So, different strokes for different folks, whatever you want. So it's got to be inclusive at all times. And, I went to Finchley the other day. Love that place, right? Like when I moved from London, I never ever thought that I'd ever come back, because I think it's impossible to have community. Because you need a bit of stability for community. You need to have people quite comfortable and relaxed. And I just feel that you just can't be that person in London. It's just too difficult. You can claim as much as you want for not being part of the rat race, but it's just very difficult the amount of time that gets spent in traveling and the amount of work that a person has to do extra to stay afloat and have a house and to bring up your kids. I mean, I know I couldn't have that relaxed nature. Everything's cheaper up north, easier up north, less traffic up north. So you obviously get more time. And if you've got more time, you're either going to waste that time or you're going to put it into a community project. When we go to the masjid, we're there for hours, just chilling, relaxing, enjoying that kind of community. So I always feel that in London, that's not possible to do, or the big cities, it's not possible to do. But when I go around and you see some places like Finchley, they do really good. Amazing. And they're doing better now with their big extension program, North Finchley Masjid. When I go around Toronto, for example, in these kind of cities which are really busy, and you see the community also happening, even though they're busy, even though there's financial pressures. I love that behavior, man. There's nothing like being with your own good people, practicing people outside of the regular kind of class or whatever, but more kind of daily salah, weekend activities, going out for a munch.
What percentage of the lessons would you say are the actual text versus other stuff? Because the thing in my head is, it's obviously a great achievement. It's very good to take on a mammoth task like that. But there's also a bit of hesitation in my heart that 14 years. I don't mean to say it bad way, but 14 years and you're just doing salah.
100%. I understand exactly what you say. This is not for a scholar or for an advanced talib al-ilm. Yani for them to be just anyone who's a student of knowledge is not studying for an hour a week. This is for people who are already studying, and it's a complementary thing. It complements what they're meant to be studying. Or it's for people who are never going to go and study. Then it's at least something which they're keeping in the game.
No, I mean from the perspective of, so the thing is,
because it is detailed, but it is slow. Yeah. So what you're saying is correct. Like for example, I teach the fiqh salah for al-Maghrib. 10 years of the fiqh of salah we've just done in logical progression. 10 years. The depth isn't a million miles off what one double weekend of the fiqh as-salah al-maghrib is.
But that 10 years that you were doing those classes, was it majority of text, or you're responding to what's happening?
No, obviously.
Currently
So roughly, let's say that out of 100%, 40% would be, or no, 50% would be the actual text and the legal reality behind that. Another 40% would be associated matters that the Shaykh wants to bring in as part of connected to the text. But it might be like a bit of seerah, might be a little bit of history, might be a bit of hadith study and authentic narrations or not, and narrators, some analysis of some ayat that has been mentioned on the fly, linked to the thing, a tangent basically. So 40% are tangents which are linked to the text in a very weavy, vaguey way, but connected enough. And then 10% is Q&A on anything else. The matters of the day, politics, this, that, whatever.
Because that's the thing I find that the real value in building a community is kind of having something, whatever the text is. If it feels like that, the text almost was secondary. That the fact that you want to get through something regular, because the thing that I'm thinking is, we need to think about, and I was talking to Shaykh Haytham about this the other day as well. We need to think about maybe rejigging or reordering some of the chapters in our books that are kind of taught to non-tulab ilm. Because imagine someone is going through week after week. In the conversation with Shaykh was about, the Imam reading one hadith after Salah, every Salah in the local masjid, for example. And they're going to go, if you go through the traditional ordering of the chapters, you're going to be for months and months and months, Tahara, then Salah, then. Whereas we need maybe something that gives, maybe touches on those things, but gives your congregation a broad, you know what I mean? Like,
isn't that being offered though? Like when you get a class like the fiqh of, you said the fiqh of workplace.
Fiqh of workplace.
Fiqh of the workplace, which is as relevant to that kind
that's
of.
what people that go to classes, isn't it? I mean, the knowledge
audiences.
and stuff is out there. But I'm thinking we need something where, imagine, you have a captive audience, right? You have a community. You built that community. What other things...
Okay.
That, and you may probably do that with the half or the 20% of their class anyway.
So,
that they need
correct.
To.
So,
because the thing is,
if you've got the people there, let's give them now actually something which is, so with respect to that, then the logical progression community or the prophetic guidance community, which now obviously is wider than just logical progression, has Quranic progression, which is an incredible project, sister project run by Shaykh Ahsan. Amazing, right? That community is now all ears. We will go for a retreat. Those folks will come and others won't. And retreat is all about what everyone's asking and debating and whatever. And then the majority of the Al-Maghrib online and on-site offerings and other institutes that we either have a connection with that we can ratify or that we're involved with. You were sharing quite a few things that in Ramadan and on zakat and whatever, all kinds of organizations that we know that we can have at least some faith in, because there's a lot of bakwas out there as well. Then we'd be putting
what about
those...
codifying that? So you have that experience now of this is the types of subjects we need to weave in.
It's interesting you say that, because that's going back to the days that Al-Maghrib used to make a big thing of their degree, right? The codification of all of their different kind of classes. And so they had hadith sciences, they had usul al-tafsir, then they had various like 5 or 6 electives which were like tafsir, because it's not really fundamental, is it, tafsir, right? But the sciences are. Then they had fiqh of death, fiqh of salah, fiqh of this, fiqh of... So all of the various different ones, fiqh of mu'amalat and whatever. And you'd get a credit for each one and you'd get the degree. And you would have thought that that's exactly that's what you're asking for, actually. In a way, because it's a system, it's a whatever, and if you've got that missing, then you take it there and people would travel. Then it became easier because you could take it online. And so now you have all of it there. And you would have thought that that's like what people want. And it's not.
It's not what they want.
It's not actually, you would have thought that codifying it for them and giving it to them, and
that's
that
what
structure,
they need. Is it what they need?
It's what they need.
Yeah.
But is it what they want? The answer is no.
Because I'm thinking as well at the same time, so last thing on this, that I'm thinking as well that if somebody, just the ibadah, mu'amalat distinction, for example, if they spend a lot of time in the chapters of ibadat, their attitude to the whole of the deen is going to be very restrictive. But if they jump into muamalat, finance and marriage or politics or whatever, they'll feel a bit more balanced. They'll get a bit more of a balanced discourse. You know what I mean? Of the framing of their mind.
Yeah, I mean, look, I was going to say, look, even if you set, what you want to teach, when you started 14 years ago, the Muslim community was a very different community. I have to say, when you spoke about double weekends, now there's no namun nishan of a double weekend. Even a single weekend, very hard. And this is across the board, getting people to come to attend it. So you can put it together. If we look at some of the big issues in the last 5 years, right? So all of the thick of like COVID, then we're talking about finances one, the different businesses now, medicine, travel, then you're even talking about now AI, right? Biotechnology. Things are shifting at such a pace, and what you think is relevant in 5 years is going to be a different world. Even now we talk about zakat and the way it's shifting so much. Actually, something I was having a discussion with some brothers about, the nisab value, right? Depending which one you use, actually a lot of people would fall below if you use gold,
especially at current prices. Yeah,
exactly. So and then now actually when you look at like basic universal pay, when you look at globally, actually a lot of countries, everyone would be almost everyone would be eligible for zakat, right? So now these are real like deep issues. You're going to be shifting this. So there is a basic, and this is why I think the principles and what I love about logical progression and everything that's going on, I agree that actually you could teach a lot quicker, but there is something in the consistency that has its own sweetness and barakah. And too often, I think we focus now on what we get from it, what we pick up, what allows us to do what we want to do, rather than there's something in that process. How many people, this is what's genuinely phenomenal, mashallah, is that the number of different people who will jump in to answer a question, or they say, oh, refer to this, but I remember this, and that you're empowering people in a real way that won't happen, honestly, from single classes or weekends.
100%.
It's a bit like when you had to go to look up a word in the dictionary back in the day.
Yeah, maybe.
Going through that process, you learn a whole bunch of other stuff.
Yeah, and the things you learn on the side from that, just from learning the approach. And the thing I always remember this, one of the statements of the fuqaha was that what you leave in finding a resolution or an answer is more important than the answer itself.
Yeah.
And that's what I found. Just always your sidebars. Yeah, I used to love when you do sidebars, even in classes. Because
what's a sidebar?
Like, just talk on the side. And actually, I was thinking about this. And we will then start discussing various things. And then he goes, okay, let me come back to this.
A few hours later.
Like, he's thinking out loud. Yeah. It's the thinking out loud that I loved. Because it was that thought process. You're looking, okay, this is what he's thinking. And the answer may be very simple. But to get to it, two people can come with the same answer, but their journey is completely different. And that, alhamdulillah,
you see,
we love.
The problem is that we are our own worst enemies, and we as teachers have also created the problem. So like you said, right, people, it's not quick enough, it's not enough, it's not covering enough issues. So we say, right, let's create a course for it. Let's create content for it. Let's write for it. Let's record for it. And we're the ones who've then produced this actual environment now where a person can go on and they don't need to, here in London especially, it would be a case of when can we protect this house? We heard so much about it, blah, 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 probably 3 years time, right? Now, that was an acceptable statement to make 10 years ago. You say that to a person right now, mentally can't even handle it. And mentally, not only can he not handle it, back in the day when you would say that, and they'd say, oh, what about Birmingham? What about Manchester? It's going to happen in 6 months' time. Khalas, I'll travel. Yeah. And people were into that. Now, obviously, we've said and realized that people are not willing to travel. People are not willing to wait. So we create online versions. We create whatever. Now we can't complain when that person is like, I'm just going to go online and access it.
Become Amazon Primed and Uber Eats.
Yeah, we've created the convenience, and now we're going to curse them for taking the convenience. It's a difficult dynamic. Unfortunately, all of the classical styles of study and effort and time or whatever, it's now been relegated to the romantic. A romantic has become like a swear word, right? It's romantic is like an ancient concept which has no meaning. I remember Rafi, Abu Eesa, he always used to, he really didn't like online searching. And he always used to say to me, man, there is not a single thing as good as going to books and not finding what you need to find.
And not finding.
And not finding, because it makes you go and look at the next one, and you fail, and then the next one, and then the next one, and the next one. And the amount of things you pick up as you're opening up these books, and opening them up sometimes for the first time, and learning the skill of, right, what, this one's, its indexing system is rubbish, or this taba, or this publisher version, its indexing version is brilliant. This used to be the stuff that we used to use. Now, there's an argument to be made that, that's romantic bakwas. Why would you do that? AI can now just save you all that time or whatever, whatnot. And the romantic argument would be that what that creates in terms of sabr, what that creates in terms of azima, in terms of having that
resolution,
that urge to actually stick it out, and that level of patience in ibadah, not just learning other stuff as well. It's kind of empty to say to a person, your time's never wasted, and it's never wasted in that process. And there'll be benefits that are coming off of that you don't realize. And if and when the electricity goes, that classic doomsday scenario, there's going to be people that are going to be having a heart attack. There are others that are going to be saying, man, this is pretty sick. I can live with this. I can enjoy this. There are, it's difficult. It's difficult to be, you talk about age. Now, you said, what have many years since we last spoke? Either we've mellowed out or I've softened out or whatever. But I find it difficult to criticize things that I myself have set up for people, or I've been instrumental in giving to them. Yeah. If I've created the online version of Protect This House, or the Fiqh Salah, for example, which I think is unbelievable, right? What we were able to do, in terms of scenarios and crazy madness, praying praying in a plane, praying in a train, praying and recording it in real high, whatever, and sometimes, difficult situations. And I'm like, that's the best ever. And now I'm going to cuss a guy who's saying that, man, you're taking 14 years, I'm taking the online version. How can I say to that guy, you know what I mean?
Yeah. There's one thing, there's the convenience and the quote unquote traditional factor. But do you think that the traditional chapters and the books of Mutun need to be revised?
I don't know. I think that the teachers need to be revised. I think the teaching is rubbish. The text has always got all the answers that we need. And they focus mostly on principles. It's very rare that any text is going to be giving final conclusions that are not applicable. They always start with methodology. They set the base principles. Then that means that you're set up then, if you've got the brains and the ability to be able to work with it, then it's your move. Like when you look at the best...
Does it not skip, sorry to interrupt, does it not skip out some of the realities that were understood but not explicitly stated in the books? Like, for example... Kitab al-Qada, Shaykh uses as example, like Kitab al-Qada, you'll read and read and read, you'll jump into the Masail, but it will never tell you straight up that the purpose of this chapter is to establish justice, for example. So in that sense, where our minds jump to who is the Qadi, what are the conditions, how is he supposed to act, what's the mechanics of the...
I think it's a really good point, by the way, that you make there, actually, that a lot of us get blinded by the text itself and make it just about the text. And this blinding is of different types. So the one you're talking about is someone who doesn't even have a general background in Sharia. Because if a person is studying qada and judgment and rulings and the like without a background in Sharia, recognizing that the overriding principle of Sharia is rahma and lean and being easy. And
where's he going to get that?
No, but I'm saying that that's got to come with a basic education of the Sharia. There can't be a person, that's one of the reasons why you don't start with Kitab al-Qada, right? You start off with water and you understand how comprehensive it is and how easy it is and whatever. And you start, that's one of the ways. But I also tell you that being blinded is of different types. One is just being ignorant of your own tradition. But another one is being ignorant of just generic tradition. Like the legal system is not just for the Muslims. The amount that I've learned, and I'm the one who does qada, studied qada, puts it into practice, and I find non-Muslims that are teaching me principles that are actually Islamic in terms of non-assumption and in terms of analysis of evidences and in terms of rehabilitation. Rehabilitation is a big thing, right? And especially when you're working in areas where there's a real pressure, a peer pressure to find prosecution. to find a scapegoat, or to set an example and make an example, whether that's politically, whether that's financially.
I mean, just to add to that,
this is might be a huge tangent. Do you think Lucy Letby did it?
What did I read the other day? Amanda Knox?
yeah, about her.
She said that, or I might be making this up, that she said that I am, now that I've been found not guilty, I might be making this up entirely, it could be somebody else, but she said that I think that Lucy Letby has suffered the same thing that I did. One massive miscarriage of justice.
Yeah, Lucy Letby, when that whole thing was happening, I was thinking, wait a minute, under some Qadi system, they would throw this thing out in 5 minutes, because it's all quote unquote statistics.
What was that? Back in the Fire Abu Eesa days, what was that?
Abu Eesa.
Women's Day.
No, the girl, she made a channel that would look into miscarriages of justice.
Oh,
There's the girl who led that Fire Abu Eesa thing.
yeah.
Rabia Chowdhury.
Yes.
Or something like that.
Yeah.
She did a podcast. She was part of like a podcast that would thingy. That was amazing, that project. Yeah, there was like they would do like detective work.
Yes. Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I never listened to it or whatever. I remember that they got some guy who was like condemned and in prison or whatever, and they opened up his case and they went at it, and and they would. Anyway, the point I was making is that I have a feeling that podcast or type of podcast is a big thing, where people do their own kind of scene. Wouldn't it be brilliant for some of the qualified legal scholars, those especially who have studied Qada, like Sajid Umar, like Shaykh Haytham, like, people who have done it, right? That they have a podcast in which they take an actual weekly case and say that what the Sharia would do is, because at the moment, what is our reputation is that we chop off hands and we do this and kill people and whatever, whatnot. And if these people started to realize that, yep, that guy's let off, that guy's thinking that's, I'm sorry, we can't bring a case here, blah, 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 from qualified people.
Yeah. I think we did a few episodes on something similar to that with Shaykh
Something regular going through the news. I remember back in the blogging days that I did that once. That this is now 25 years ago, where we had one of the early blogs.
On your MySpace account.
Alternative Entertainment.
Yeah, Alternative Entertainment, AE.
Oh, I remember that.
And it was the Sudanese teddy bear situation. Or what was it again?
When some teacher named a teddy bear, allegedly named a teddy bear Muhammad.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah,
okay.
yeah.
And it went mental, whatever, in the thingy. And I remember I wrote analysis. I went, according to the Sharia, this, whatever, blah, blah, blah. So back then, obviously, everyone was
So
very
you said she should have a head cut off.
Well, I can't remember what the conclusion was. I just remember analysing. I might have saved it, to be honest. Yeah, I'll take credit for that. But
it was probably on archive.org.
It's probably out there. Yeah. Or might be taken off on purpose to get visas. But I think that's a great idea in the age of all these investigative podcasts and stuff.
I was going to say on this, Sheikh, right, is that when you talk about the different levels of understanding the teachers, often with kind of modern issues, what I find when engaging with a lot of the different scholars is that they understand the principles, they understand the historical context, but actually understanding what the current situation is, not in a kind of high level, loose way, but actually what is going on. It needs someone who really knows intricately to break it down. As soon as it's broken down, then it's easily applied.
Yeah, I think it can't be done in isolation of experts.
Yeah.
I think that unfortunately some, and this is again us, I mean, maybe I'm contributing to the problem here, but I want to make it very clear, I'm not qualified to make analysis of what happened in Sudan at that time. And I'm not able to give a political analysis of the intricacies of Iran and X and Y and Z. And there are probably people out there that do have that ability. But when you're a sheikh and a da'i and a scholar and you got a mic, you kind of feel that you're going to be looked down upon if you can't speak about that subject with authority. And there's that sense of kind of like shame or embarrassment to be caught out. And that's purely from shaitan. Anyone that's doing this for the right reason shouldn't be feeling like, that I need to just make a statement for the sake of actually holding up my izzat in front of people, that I'm not a complete kebab and I do know what I'm roughly talking about. If I don't have the ability.
Do you think that's more common than the opposite, which is people just being quiet and almost relishing the fact that they don't talk about politics?
Is that even possible that that's more common than the amount of talking mouth is that the internet's full of.
No, I
Every
mean,
single man, his
the-
dog is speaking about it, things in
The
an
Shaykh
expert.
/ da'i figure / imam.
Staying quiet.
Yeah.
That's a tiny minority.
Really?
100%. Tiny minority. There's everybody else. It's everybody else, yani, that or the majority are all speaking about. Everyone's got an opinion. Everyone's got whatever. In my opinion, anyway. You honestly think that more people are quiet? There's a level of
I'm
quietism.
just wondering what the, because
I think
I feel
there's a big difference, because I remember I just seem to feel that someone earlier on this year or last year made a point that not enough scholars are speaking up about things.
might have been me.
Well, okay.
No, is it Omar Hajjaj?
No. Anyway, whoever said it, it's a point, right? It's a correct point that there's not enough scholars or leaders speaking. I don't think that's the case. I think there might be a few individuals that are in such a kind of like a highlighted kind of
All right, yeah, there's those,
maqam that they might not be saying whatever, but I think everybody else, like, it's a problem if we're using social media activity as the judge. Like, I don't, it's been years since I've been using social media regularly, right? I used to be so regular on social media, and then it started kind of cutting me back and restricting things, and like, you wouldn't let it post out, and it says that you've gone against principles and you've been reported, blah, blah, blah. And you'd send off the what would be called? You'd do the appeal.
The check for 5 minutes.
And it would sometimes come back, sometimes not. You just lose himmet for it. I ain't got the time for that. Now, especially when you got Telegram or closed circles or live sessions, you can vent as much as you want, speak as much as you want, cuss as much as you want, you know. And ultimately, why is it that we use or amplify our voice so that people can hear it? And if you're speaking to a group of people that can hear it and are invested in hearing it, I would argue that they're more important people to educate on the issue than just having 1 million followers and state something in the public arena just for the sake of you don't get cussed that you didn't say anything.
Isn't that called echo chamber though?
Which is why I personally wouldn't, you know, everyone's after Menk all the time. Everyone's after, I don't know who people are after. But the point is that, what's he going to say that's anything new? It's like, no, but I want you to say it. You've got to say it. Well, unless you think he's a kuff, right? Why do you need him to say it, right? Unless you really have a doubt. Right? And listen, I get it that there's tone and there's got to be tanasub, you've got to be in line. You can't be celebrating your flipping whatever when people are being massacred, and you deserve to get cussed. That's fine. And also, I accept that public accountability, when you get the good times, you should also be called out. But what are we actually calling people out on? You know what I mean? If there's something specific that only that person knows and they need to clarify, that's something else. But if it's like, did you condemn Israel? Or did you support Iran or whatever? Unless you genuinely have some real doubt about this person's iman, calling people out when they should be called out, when you go against the believers, when you're going against what is the truth, when you're going for a cult line or a party line, that's got to happen. Because if that doesn't happen, we carry on living in this romantic way, or this, just not vibes to call people out. To hell with vibes, man. Deen's got to be protected, isn't it? Right? Some people have got to be there. And obviously, again, the problem is that gets out of control either. Then
ironically, we might bleep his name out. We might not.
You can bleep who you want. The point is that there's plenty of stuff out there. People that are going to be jumping on that. People that are going to be looking for the next guy to cuss or whatever.
But it goes to extremes, though, doesn't it?
It does go to extremes. There's no doubt. And that's the problem. Again, me saying someone's name, which is not cool, which is not classy. That's what people say. It's not classy to call him out. I've never believed that argument, right? Never understood it. A complete misapplication. Class. It's not bad.
I actually have a button for that.
Yeah, forget your button. The actual naming of people isn't a great thing, but people misapply the hadith of the Prophet ﷺ of what is wrong with the people. What is wrong with the people is when you're protecting a person in private in a scenario which is restricted, versus someone who's causing open, damaging, public harm repeatedly. So these people are shayateen.
I want to just clarify though, you're saying this as someone with the knowledge and authority to make that determination. It is ultimately a matter of tanzilul hukm ala.
That's the problem. go and
So we don't want some
support
random,
the
some
field,
random dude.
give an example of it,
Yeah.
and then the podcasters now say, well, there you go, we
Yeah.
can now go and do it as well.
So-
and the unqualified go and do it as well. So you're absolutely right. The fact that I will say something, or people who are invested and know or have suffered or X, Y, Z, them saying there's a big, big difference. This is not general permissibility.
Correct me if I'm wrong. The normal hukum is it's haram to say anything that will besmirch a Muslim's reputation.
100%. Whether
But
it's
obviously-
ghiba and it's not true, or whether and it's true,
and it's
or
true.
whether it's namima and it's actually true.
Yeah.
Now then it goes into the next area of fiqh of public harm, public interest. And the public harm and public interest is not in the hands of podcasters and social media influencers and blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
That's in the hands of really illegally qualified and those that can see danger, seen it before, seen cycles and the like. And it is important. It's one of our, Dad always says this from LP about toxic positivity. People just not willing to hear anything criticized. Everything's got to be positive, 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 positive all the time. This is a catastrophe in the Muslim Ummah, honestly.
Really? Wow.
100%. People can't handle any kind of I'm being judged or you're judging that person or whatever. People just think that Islam is just rose petals with ice cream and that you're meant to just live, this fantasy every day and every night. And that's why there's this massive cognitive dissonance with the proper essence of deen, because they're just seeing it in a way that they like and enjoy. And we spoke about this in the last logical progression session, that people's ibadah and spirituality has been massively affected by this, because when you cannot accept that there's any negative or downtime, if your act of worship isn't easy and comfortable and giving you the vibes, then it's no longer an act of worship to pursue. You've got to either stop it or you find an alternative, and then the diyana, the religiosity of people is suffering because the vibes aren't there. You know what I mean? It's not a picture moment. It's not Instagrammable. It's not whatever. People forget where the word ubudiyya comes from. It's slavery, bro. There is nothing romantic or nice about being a slave. Get on the floor, put your head down, bow in front of me. Right? People forget that this deen is about submission. That you're told what to do, not let me make it nice and comfortable, and if I like it, then I whatnot. I mean, imagine you did that to your slave master in a human example. It wouldn't be possible. How we then apply it to the perfect analogy of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, where everything has got to be nice and positive and don't speak bad about people and keep speaking about Rahman. It's all about just mercy and forgiveness. That's nonsense, man.
Yeah.
That's worse than secularizing the deen. That's actual batil.
Do you think that
and it applies
tendency-
everywhere? It applies in people of quality of deen, and it also applies in the politics that right now, Iran, the whole kind of situation. The inability to be able to speak about this with maturity, that you're going to be labeled if you can't speak the truth. Right now, it's impossible to be on the side of criminals, terrorists like America and Israel, right? If there's anybody that's actually doubting, sometimes people would say that terrorism, it can't be done by a state. It's got to be a group that's got to have a cult, blah, blah, blah. But my guy said, I'm going to obliterate your civilization.
Yeah.
I'm going to bomb your bridges and I'm going to bomb your whatever, whatnot. Kufs themselves came out with, that's genocide.
Yeah.
That's genocide talk, let alone terrorism. Terrorists wish they could go to genocide levels. You need to have next level power to be able to take your killing and your terror to that level. So we have people that are saying that it doesn't matter whether you're a president or whether you're a country or whatever. Terror is terror. I'm there in Iran, in Tehran or whatever, and I hear that. Me and my family, what am I thinking? So this is not difficult where the right and the wrong is, where the truth and where whatever, and who the oppressor is and who isn't. The whole world is divided on this because they can see that the guy's completely nuts. The country's gone completely nuts. That, they've got a bloodthirst which has not been seen for decades. It's been seen historically, but it's not been seen for decades. That shouldn't stop me saying that, do you realize what Iran has done? The crimes of Iran in Sham, the crimes of Iran in against Saudi Arabia, for example, and the Muslims of the Gulf region and whatever. And I don't mean just this current, whatever. But, and I'm not just harking back to historical stuff. I'm talking about modern history. Millions massacred at their hands. Millions. If you count across the world and add up the numbers, and the spreading of da'wah as well. So let's not make it just emotive about life and death as well. Let's talk about theology and ideology as well. The spreading of batil. And that's something which is where we're responsible for. So and what I'm trying to say is that it's possible to speak about both things and still have a position and defend the right of the innocent to not be bombed and killed and massacred, and yet believe that we've got to stop that da'wah, we've got to educate people against it, we've got to stop people getting giddy over Iran and making them like, what was it that they were saying? That the new, whatever, to be supported. And these AI cartoons that make it out to like there's some kind of,
I'm not gonna lie,
Messiah.
those are really good.
No, shut up.
The Lego ones especially.
Let go of it, man.
Well, it's good you're talking about this because Omar was thinking of making the switch.
Yeah,
He
no,
was like,
I was
Iran
actually.
is like,
No.
the only country.
With a name like
standing up to
mine,
Israel.
I'll fit right in.
Khuda hafiz to you then, bro.
No, but I mean, switching the topic though, I mean, you mentioned Iran, and I think this is really important about the dawah because there are many people, and this point about actually calling out the injustice that's happening and the average person in Iran, etc. But this soft dawah that's now happening, and for Muslims who
Soft da'wah from the Iranians.
from Shia, yeah,
Right.
that people who bought into the Palestine issue on a kind of justice-based thing, not a religious-based necessarily motivation. Now they see actually who are the ones who stood up for them. And let's be honest, in terms of the Ahl Sunnah, we're not exactly covered in glory from a political and military perspective. The average person, the average Abdullah who's thinking, looking at this, well, man, these guys, they've stood up. They've shown real shuja, real bravery. They're willing to go out onto their bridges. They're willing to fight. They're doing everything on the right online and in person, and they're giving it back to them. It's not like they're getting bad. They're giving it back to them. Man, maybe there's something in it. And our guys, Sama Nasheed, praising the leaders. Like, what do we say to them? What's our message?
It's interesting how what you mentioned about people that jumping onto different causes for certain reasons. So like you said, people who supporting the Palestine cause because of a justice angle.
Yeah.
Others will be because it's just the liberal thing to do.
Yeah.
And whenever you choose a basis or a justification, which is not the Sharia, not the Kitab al-Sunnah, you're always going to get unstuck. The problem is that there's nuance to this.
Yeah.
You don't have to justify something from Quran and Sunnah to be able to support someone. This is what I want to say. But if you don't justify it from Quran and Sunnah, you will have a khalal, you will have a deficiency in your analysis and your ability, and also your consistency and avoiding hypocrisy at some level. This is something, subhanAllah, that we learn from our teachers, and it's often, it sometimes might be boring, sometimes might be controversial, right?
Yeah.
I'll give you one example. There's a lot of people that if I was to say what's the big difference with Palestine this time, right? Is it the numbers of dead that has shocked the world, right? What is the actual thing that has made everybody kind of wake up? I don't know, because if you start adding up the numbers over the last years, it's not that different. It's not that different, right? Is it the implications from a geopolitical and immigration or whatever? No, that's always been happening, whatever, whatnot. I would think that, and I haven't done analysis, it's not my area, that someone could argue it's the number of children that have been killed. All right? Now.
And the fact that it's been live streamed pretty much.
The openness with which it's been done.
Is it the case though? When it happened in 2009 and when it happened whatever, whatnot, there was lots of, I seem to remember lots of drone activity and lots of cameras or whatever, but you're right, obviously it's live streamed more than
And the
before.
justification that's given now, the blatant, if not like before, it'd be like,
I don't know about that either.
The imagery that's available is proportionate to the level of radicalization it causes. So back in the 70s, it would be someone seeing a picture on a magazine or a videotape, whatever, and that person would have been, radicalized, become anti-Israel, whatever.
Right.
In the 90s, 80s, whatever. And it's just a number of people with access watching it, I think.
So it's just an increased load. It was a natural kind of escalation.
And the fact that the machinery of propaganda and cognitive warfare has crumbled on the other side.
Right.
Like people aren't buying it anymore.
So has anyone done a quantitative analysis of children?
I think the Lancet, isn't it? I think they
That is more now than any whatever,
maybe, I don't know.
as a percentage wise. You see, the point I want to make, you know, maybe my angle is wrong, but the point I want to make is that people are very activated, obviously, when they see children dead and numbers dead. And when you are speaking to Joe Public non-Muslim, that's what's got their attention. I don't think they are like us, that they consume the propaganda and the counter propaganda, and they're not really involved in that. They're seeing any children crying, orphans, whatever, whatnot. And that's obviously the live stream part and the extra footage, but it's the numbers, crazy numbers, right? And if you think about this, I don't know where this justification comes from. This is a Western sensitivity, because it's not an Islamic one. This idea, this idea that a war is only serious because children die in it. Men matter as well.
Of course.
Women matter as well. The elderly matter as well. Destruction matters as well. And it's a different worldview and a different religion and a different type of people who make that decision based upon their higher propensity, I want to say, to, or sensitivity, I think is the word, to children dying, which we all understand, right? So the reason I'm making this point is that you would never cuss a non-Muslim for supporting Palestine because he's upset that the kids have died. But is it the right justification? It's not. But it's acceptable for that person to make it, and it's acceptable for me to be upset and that person to be upset, and that we then take action as a result of that. But if we're educating people, would we educate them and say that it's only when children die that you should get involved in a cause? And so back to your point about Iran, right? That there are ways or things or any actual global event or activity in which it will be justified for us to be showing some love or support or being happy or whatever. And if you only go with a partial aspect, that's when you're going to be caught out and the problem is going to then appear. So for example, if you see them sticking it back to the oppressor, and this is your driving thing because you hate the fact that there's a big bully out there and you just want, that was your driving thing, and you saw any person give it back, then you get excited. Your level of being batting for them is going to last just as long as that happens. And you're going to be blinded to the fact that actually the damage that these people have caused and will cause with their soft da'wah is crazy. And if you don't have any background in Aqidah and know that actually we have a theological difference with these people, we have a Quran and Sunnah basis difference with these people, and that's the basis that you should be using. That doesn't mean you can't support them in terms of need. There's the nuance and the caveats as part of the Sharia. But the point about you saying that people getting a bit sucked in and they're then taking the whole kind of package, the only reason they are is because they use the wrong basis to support them. Now, I support their defense, but you're not going to get me any affected by their soft da'wah. Or why am I different to the other guy? Because I'm using the right justification of supporting them. That these are deviated people or deviated leaders that have got serious problems and serious crimes, but the crime of the other side is a lot more, and here they need our support, our dua, their innocence, X, Y, Z, blah, 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 as appropriate to the scenario, whether it's Iran, whether it's Sudan, whether it's whatever scenario, whether it's a political event, whether it's an analysis of a controversy. It doesn't matter. The principle is the key, that you should use Islamic principles for your outrage and your love, and not temporary, partial justifications.
Reminds me of the dua in the Quran, the رَبَّنَا لَا تَجْعَلْنَا فِتْنَةً لِلَّذِينَ ظَلَمُوا الَّذِينَ كَفَرُوا.
If you don't have a foundation yourself, a correct foundation, a methodology for how you live your life and how you express outrage and happiness and how like and not like, and you are swayed so easily, right? Someone was talking to me about this the other day. He goes, it's impossible in public to say something negative against Iran.
Over here?
Anywhere. Amongst the Muslim community, he was making a point. Because you're seeing knocking the people when they're down. Right?
I mean, just not good taste either, I guess.
Yeah, so this is wrong. This is wrong. This shows how immature the Muslim community is.
In the ayah, there's a kind of tacit acceptance of the reality that Allah don't make us a fitna, a tribulation for the wrongdoers or the disbelieving people. And the tafsir of that is, if they are victorious over us, they will think they are upon the truth. So there's still the understanding that actually reality, like the worldly, earthly glory and success makes people lean towards, maybe there's something about their values.
100%, which is why the upper hand is better than the taking hand. The one that preparing our military to show our strength, to show the arm in tawaf, to do the ramal in the first three, even when you are weak, to show that you're in control, to show leadership. This is a very basic principle. But if you're going to lose your mind over that and then say, right, you're that weak, Sunni basic Muslim, seeing that and saying, right, this is the future, I'm switching sides.
What do you reckon, Omar?
You know what it is? I think,
I'll pull you back, bro.
Exactly. Thanks a lot.
You're the precipice.
No Kabidas today.
It's okay, don't.
Kabidas is Iraqi, bro.
All right, we've got to pass for that.
Don't beat yourself up.
I'll try not to. This is, so we see what you're speaking about, Sheikh. People who are activists now, because we said again, Palestine has flicked on a lot of activism. But the problem is they see everything through the prism of activism, and they don't realize in trying to fulfill some level of justice, they actually cause injustice. And that comes to the lack of knowledge. I remember I was in a group with a lot of different people who were speaking about activism, and they wanted to go after a major charity because they banked with Barclays, right? And they're like, let's go after the charity. And I said to them, I said, guys, do you know that these guys have had their bank accounts continually closed and they've only been able to keep a bank account with Barclays? I go, if you want to go after Barclays, but why are you going after the Muslim charity that's doing so much here? But they don't see it. It's this red mist drops, and everything, the immediate response is, let's go after him, let's attack him. And you see it in groups and individuals. And this is, I guess, the negative side of seeing a global cause like this. It's motivated people, but we need to pull them back into actually there's still a methodology. Everything you spoke about, having a method for how we do things.
Collateral damage.
Yeah, it's collateral damage, but it's our own framework, isn't it? What is knowing maslaha and mafsada in these things? Actually, what does the Sharia want from me in this instance? Pulling people back is a lot harder now, Sheikh.
Yeah, because of what you said, right? Instead of supporting the cause based upon Quran and Sunnah, they went on the basis of activism and social justice.
Yeah.
And when you do that, then you are obviously using a guidelines that has not got divine protection, hasn't got divine blessing, hasn't got the safety of Sunnah methodology, and then you're going to end up having to defend all kinds of stuff. Whether it's sexuality, whether it's crimes in other areas, whether it's liberal values of kufr that are going to come as part of that package. Once you've gone down the wrong methodology, you've got to then, good luck to you surviving in that. Good luck. Every part of it is going to be affected by that decision. So, for example, then they're going to say, you've got to, like you're saying, boycott this, boycott that. A scholar coming at that, at the boycott argument, doesn't necessarily have to be the classic cliche of the scholar says, all boycotting is haram because there's no basis for it. But they will come at it with knowledge and say that, listen, firstly, you need to know Islamically how something is boycotted, right? That the asl is permissibility, not obligation. That the basis for it has to be 100% spot on before you fall into slander and claim something about a company that's not actually true. That's
the other
just
day,
factual.
my kids go to me, Baba, Krispy Kreme supports Palestine.
I got no idea what you said there.
He's a Krispy Kreme. He wants to eat Krispy Kreme.
Krispy Kreme on the thingamajig.
No, they said Krispy Kreme supports Palestine.
Oh, that's the pro. So we should go and eat. No, I like that. See, that's the positive.
Ben and Jerry's, definitely.
I think they made it up.
That's the positive version.
I heard about Ben and Jerry's, but
that's the positive version. But you got to know that it's definitely, actually, factually doing the crime, and then you've got to then actually confirm that that's from a theoretical point of view, and then in practice you've got to then confirm. For years people keep talking about that this company keeps sending its money to Israel, blah blah blah, and they release statement after statement saying we never paid a single penny, we never done anything, whatever, whatnot, and also to know that if even once now you've ticked it, so it's permissible, there's a company we've identified and it's always wanting to do it, and there's a company that now is actually doing it, doing blah 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 things. Now, what's the ruling on this particular company and my involvement with it right now? Are there exceptions? Do I take a burden upon myself and make obligatory upon myself that which Allah has not obligated, and then create a situation where I can't then sustain it, and then open myself up to, hypocrisy and double standards? Or do I just do my little bit that I can in the areas that is, meaning that when you come at the issue with the right principle, we still might get the same result. The activists are cussing the scholars. They're like, you lot are all sellouts. The scholars are saying, oh, you liberal scum, you got no idea what you're talking about, whatever, whatnot. The truth is if you let the experts deal with each part, it's possible that the final conclusion will be, that I'm going to avoid that. I don't want to support.
I mean, you don't have to legalize and Quran and Sunnah every kind of argument that way. It's if we just empower people with the basic sharam of like just
basic
being
sharam,
embarrassed,
basic initiative to develop is more than just that, right? It's more than just boycott this, boycott that. Let's also offer alternatives, ideas. It's
that's why I like when I spoke to Dr. Ismail Patel, Friends of Al-Aqsa, back in the day. He said having a long list of things, is hard for people. That's why they recommend just 3 companies: Coca-Cola, HP, and Puma, I think it was. I don't know if that's still the case, but that's the easy thing to remember. Like, you don't have to take out a long list whenever you're shopping, whatever. So kind of make something. That's like the practical logistics of, a public campaign. But one thing that you reminded me of is some of our brothers in our last program, there was this conversation / debate about why is there one thing that is that the fiqh will say one thing, but ethics will say something else.
For example,
ethics.
You remember that? So, it's technically halal, to buy XYZ, but it's more ethical not to. They had this kind of. I had my own kind of take on how to resolve this, but
something is Sharia compliant by the rules of Sharia compliance. So let's say Hewlett Packard, right, sells computers itself, doesn't have debt, all of those things. So it's an underlying halal product. So all the factors that make it Sharia compliant, it's halal. But actually, they're supporting Israel.
How are they, by the way? Is it because they've got, in the occupied territories, got factories or something?
They actually give them the military hardware, the computing hardware they use. Amjad, by the way, did a really good analysis, and I'll speak about that in a second. But they're supporting them. So it's unethical, but it's still deemed Sharia compliant. So there'll be various cases like this. I guess even someone selling a halal product, like, halal meat, in an area where they overcharge because they can get away with it. Some people say, well, that's a bit unethical, right? So there seems to have been this split now, and now people are talking about, actually it's halal, but is it tayyib? This type of thing. Or now actually say, well, actually ESG and ethics is a different criteria.
What's ESG?
Environmental, social, and governance. This is kind of used in big industry as a separate criteria. And they say, well, it should be Sharia compliant and ESG, as if somehow the Sharia itself is unethical. This is the problem.
I have to say, I don't think that's a problem if we understand that ethical is very contextual and subjective.
Yeah.
Right? So you gave the example of HP.
Yeah.
And for me, I can't keep up with any of these companies, by the way. Every time there's a new company and they've done something wrong, I don't know what that was going on.
Yeah.
I just let someone tell me and I say, all right. But if HP is, obviously it's a computer business, completely halal standard, and its problem, and why we're not going to invest in it, or we're going to boycott it, or whatever, is because it supplied Israel with computers, then the second it stops supplying companies with
hardware,
it's no longer unethical.
Agreed.
The fiqh doesn't change though, right? So my point is that I don't think necessarily there's a problem with having this aspect where we've got to legally be able to determine something, legally ascertain its nuts and bolts, but then what the public interest is.
Yeah.
Knowing that the public interest always changes.
Yeah.
The public maslaha might be in this way we do this, and then another time we do that, another time, we do this in order for us to try to achieve a consequence. That's going to change from era to era, from cause to cause. I don't know if that's I don't know if that's as big a problem as people might think.
I got to say, because I've been working in this space, it has a lot of people, they don't understand Google, Microsoft, Tesla. So Tesla is a car, doesn't have debt, electric, speaking about it earlier. But the guy at the top,
Yeah.
like, you know, but again, I understand, but the average person, because would they understand the language of boycott? They understand the emotive connection to it, even more so than halal, haram, sharia compliant, non-sharia compliant. For them, they can't compete. How can you support a company that's dealing in this harm? So Amja, what they did recently, they discussed this and they said, well, there's certain rules they came up with. So people are listening, the American Muslim Jurist Association of the US is a panel of different scholars. And they said, so you got to look at what the underlying company does. Then is whatever they're doing being used incidentally, right, by whichever entity?
Yep.
And thirdly, is it being used specifically and they are supporting it? So
Perfect.
for example, Google is Google software, everyone could be using it. But they also had something called Project Nimbus, which is specifically providing aid and support and cloud support to IDF. So that's a very good way of looking at it, isn't it?
100%. That's exactly how it should be.
Yeah.
That's exactly how it should be. And that's the difference, as I said, between a scholarly-led campaign and boycotting and whatever versus activist-led.
Yeah.
Right? Methodology, principles. And if people are patient, you might, in your enmity towards scholars and Maulvis or whatnot, you might actually get the conclusion that you want.
Absolutely.
Just trust the process. Let the system play out. And if it gets to a conclusion where it says, no, Google's good, right? Lump it and accept it.
Yeah.
It's fine. You know what I mean? And you don't need to use it. You can use flipping Ask Butler or Ask Jeeves or whatever it used to be called. Is that still alive? Ask Jeeves.
I don't know.
That's what we used to that's what we used to use before Google.
Saw an advert a few years ago.
Yahoo.
Is that still alive?
They say DuckDuckGo is the good one.
Right. You know what it is? Let's be honest, man. We would use WhatsApp. Telegram's been good. But when they try and switch to like Signal and even DuckDuckGo, I tried to use it. It's so bought into usability and interface, man.
Yeah.
I've got a theory that in 100 years' time, it's been a few years, in 90 years' time now, every fiqh council in the world is going to be like, how did people not know this stuff was haram and leading us down a path of just complete annihilation or whatever? But it is what it is. Surveillance capitalism.
I remember something Shaykh Abu Eesa said, it really stuck with me, this thing about fiqh al-aqalliyat and the fiqh of minorities. And it was one of yours, like you said, don't give me that, it's fiqh of weakness.
Yeah.
And that's really stuck with me, honestly, because I see every day how many compromises we make. And I understand that's not the issue. But my worry is that people are disconnected from the original asal-based ruling. And so they build upon the compromise and the allowance. And so this is why I constantly try and listen, no, this is the original ruling. Know that, and then you build after it. But our problem is we're building on the compromises. And then it's just, from that point, and that really stuck with me when you said that. I don't know if you remember it.
I do remember it because it's the same point that we've just been making in this podcast, methodology, right? If you don't have the right methodology is the foundations, isn't it, right? And as you just said, if you build your foundations of your argument, your whatever, on the wrong thing, the whole thing is going to fall apart. It doesn't matter how nice it looks. It doesn't matter how temporary it holds together. It will fall. It might not even be in our generation. It might be in our kids.
Yeah.
Right? It's about certain things that we're allowed to pass right now. If we don't stop and make a stand against an interest kind of transaction, if we don't make a stand against a definition of sexuality or whatever, I'll give you one example. Happened to my daughter in her school. So, as you know, no chance she's getting a mobile phone, right? She's 12, whatever. And I think that no one should ever be giving their kids a phone before 16, right? So, and they've got to prove it multiple times. They can have access to phones at home and, their mum's phone, dad's phone, do all their normal kind of stuff. But actually be alone with a phone, whether in bedroom or whether outside, 16 has got to be the age for me. And you might find a particularly mature kid, and there's always exceptions, that's fine. But as a general principle.
I told my kid's 25.
We're having a laugh, bro, 25.
It's because he's tight.
So your prefrontal cortex has developed. I radicalize them against it from a young age, so they're on kind of side now.
Their thing is underdeveloped. They can't understand the radicalization, bro.
When they see a kid on an iPad, they're like, Baba, look, their parents don't love them. I'm like, shh. Yeah, you're
But your point.
Obviously, that's tough.
Yeah.
Yeah, and anyone who's a parent knows that it's the toughest thing ever, right? And you know, obviously, I'm now old leather now. I'm burnt. Yeah, and I've been through all the rest of the kids. They're all now grown up, and so that makes it a little bit easier for the younger one. Because I couldn't give her, you know, right? And she knows that I don't give, and she's also got the motivation from the others that I've just got to bide my time, and I'll get there. But it's tough. So one day, she comes home and she's upset. And so I said, "What's up, man?" And she goes, No. She goes, "Look, man, today I felt really bad in class. Teacher said, right, if everyone can, just go to this link on the screen and take a picture and then revise." She goes, every single person in the class took out their phone, took a picture of the screen of the lesson. Year 7, by the way. Yeah. And also there's a scan of the code to go and do whatever. Bro, I went flipping nuclear. Went straight down. Next morning, headmaster, want to see him immediately. I said, "What's this nonsense?" He goes, "I swear that I have not heard this before and I didn't know this thingy, and I will deal with it immediately." To his credit, called me back at the end of the day. Teachers apologized, thought it was acceptable. Yani, whatever, blah, 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 blah. Now, that would have seen as extreme reaction, some people would say, right?
Yeah.
But to make that a part and parcel of, you know, the learning process is completely unacceptable at all levels. And the irony of all ironies is what happened obviously this week, with the government now basically pushing it through and going to ban it completely in a lesson. So that teacher wouldn't even be able to do that, right? They did it based on what they thought was in the interest and their acceptable belief that actually everyone in front of me actually has. That person didn't want to cause my daughter a problem. She just couldn't believe that there'd be someone in this class that doesn't actually have a phone, right? And she's done an exclusion thing there and done all that kind of bit. But fully, I accept that. But I didn't want her to take that as a norm, that could be the principle. If you don't push back on that and you accept, like so many parents have now accepted, that we've got to now allow our kids, when they go to secondary school, to have a phone. It wasn't long ago that nobody believed that or thought that, and they said it at 18. Then we kind of now done to 16, and we're now holding firm at 16. But many Muslim parents are now allowing it at 11, and that becomes a new foundation. And if you build upon that foundation, the whole thing is a catastrophe.
Yeah, I remember
because the numbers then of the sexting and the porn and the X and the Y, you'll see it completely based upon that reality being changed because the foundation has changed. You've got to hold your ground. Whatever it is in your value, you've got to hold your ground. It cannot be the concession. It cannot be the fatwa. It cannot be the exception. It's got to be the normative, orthodox position. And then we can deal with then the scenarios that come. That's what the fiqh of aqalliyat is. Right? Let's create the orthodox structure. And then when we need to apply fiqh al-aqalliyat, which I call the fiqh of us being weak Pakis, right? And we can't do anything because they just throw us into the sea, right? Then okay, we'll deal with it. But we're not going to make that the rule. Because there are people who can hold out. There are sisters who can wear niqab. You know, I'm like, you know what? I'm kind of, I can see over the last X years that in the whole niqab situation, I think it is more better that in certain positions, they see our full face and they get a lot more of what we're able to offer, that the niqab at the moment from that side and the other side is maybe losing out in the da'wah game. But never should the woman take a niqab off just for that reason. And never should we be letting up in the areas in which women can smash it with no problem as an absolute foundation, right? And we don't make the hijab the foundation, because then it becomes then the convertible behavior the foundation, and then it becomes, whatever else. And it will always keep, the wider society knows as well. If you remember the argument for voting, was it the argument for why they don't want to allow voting to start at 16? Is it 18 at the moment, or is it 16?
18.
Right? And the reason that they said that we can't, and this is the Kuf speaking, that we can't let it become 16 is because it will never go back again. And they said that whenever legislation occurs, i.e. whenever you build your structure, it never goes back. And that's the Kuf saying that. With no divine. Huh?
اعتبار المآلات.
Oh my God. I'm listening to his lessons. There is no return. Once you go past that, it is the point of no return. You may think that it's only a temporary reprieve or a fatwa. There's no such thing, bro. People jump all over that and it becomes the norm.
Yeah, absolutely.
I remember you mentioned years ago, I don't know where it was, you mentioned your other son, your elder son, getting a similar thing in the classroom.
Yes.
And he getting embarrassed that he took out a proper DSLR camera. He's like, wait.
Bro, Nokia's, we give them and they're keeping it at the bottom of the bag, because they're embarrassed about it.
Yeah.
Bro, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So this is some of the questions I wanted to ask you. Well, in the line, in the theme of Islam Tendencies Guarding Innocence campaign, right? It's coming up soon. All about kind of preserving the next generation. A lot of the sensitive topics and stuff as well, empowering parents, empowering teachers in Muslim schools and non-Muslim schools, whatever, and children. A lot very similar to your Guard This House stuff in Al-Maghrib.
Protect this house even.
Protect
This house. I knew that.
He's been standing outside.
Someone's got a guard in it. Murabitun. Imagine if a concerned parent came up to you and they said, how do we protect our children? How do we stop losing our children, the next generation?
Bro, what is that? That's like
that's
a class to ask the question, bro.
So number one is go to that Maghrib course or whatever. But I heard it's not going to be for another 3 years.
Another 3 years.
So
look,
my guy's going to be 18 by then.
One thing that is an area which I do think that we've got to take a lot more seriously with the whole kind of. I haven't seen it yet. Do you want to see it? The manosphere, is it called?
Oh yeah, I saw the Louis Theroux and the manosphere.
That's the thing, right?
Yeah.
That's what everyone's talking about, right?
Yeah. So for young men and
So
I thought of a phrase actually, and I didn't know where to use it. Salmanosphere.
Oh
okay?
my God.
We gotta put that somewhere.
Guys, please don't go. It was
That might be the name of this podcast.
It was good being with you.
Abu
bro.
Eesa enters the Salmanosphere.
I heard that it was like an expose on Andrew Tate and all that kind of bakwas, whatever.
He wasn't in it much, but it was a few other.
But I mean, the whole scene, the red pill, and you know, people speaking macho type thing, and whatever. And the truth is that whether for men or for women, the influences that we used to fear before are even stronger. They are even more pervasive. They're even more relevant. And there are certain kind of values that even we are now feeling too old for, right? And and it matters. Us staying relevant with our kids, it matters. Our generation, it was Allah's mercy that saved us, because our parents
100%.
had zero idea.
And slow internet.
And no internet, internet, no internet. They listen. They had no idea who our friends were.
Yeah.
And even if they knew who they were, they had no perception of what evil or misguidance or whatever. They had no idea, right? And even, alhamdulillah, that because deviance and bad behavior and evil itself was restricted just by nature of technology and finances, the worst versions that we could get to become wasn't that worse. It would be in terms of porn, or it'd be stealing.
The ceiling for
ceiling for misguidance. It wouldn't get to the ideological levels. It wouldn't get to what I call white collar deviancy.
Nice.
Right? White collar deviancy is the stuff that happens in our grammar schools and whatever, where the aqidah gets destroyed, and sexuality and whatever. Now that white collar kind of deviancy is now no longer the preserve of what is now everywhere, because of and we know that, and we're educated on it, and we're really worried about it, and we still can't even connect with our kids and be the right example and whatever. A friend of mine came to me the other day, and he said, man, it's crazy how much these young folks look after their bodies.
Yeah.
Now, I ask you to go back to your, not childhood, but your teens or 20s or whatever. The kind of stuff that we were into, what was it that we were into?
Two-piece chicken and chips.
Bikes.
Yeah.
Chicken. Okay. Games.
Gonna have mates.
Wasn't gym.
Pool snooker. Yeah.
It wasn't body and gym and that kind of thing. Worshipping the body and whatever. And you look at these kids, they're in the gym all the time. That generation, and 18s and 20 and 22 or whatever, they take health very, very seriously and whatever.
Protein, supplements for everything.
Blah, blah. Habib says one thing, or Islam says that this is what I took yani to cut to welterweight. The Sunnah supplements, Sunnah company, Sunnah X and
Ramadan,
Y.
man, having those electrolytes in these short fasts,
Bro,
like you can't survive.
It's crazy. That's actually a really good example.
Bro.
Yani the whole thing about Ramadan, when you wake up suhoor, you gotta have oats and you gotta have this. What happened to under parada? Yani, whatever. And we lasted 18 hours and 20 hours, and these lot need to have.
It's because paratha has a lot of electrolytes. Let's be honest. That's what it says. One thing else, paratha has electrolytes.
Shilajit?
You'll be careful how you pronounce that.
Shilajit. Whatever.
And
You
it's a
gotta put that
Bengali
in your
thing.
water. You gotta do this, that, whatever. I've got into a lot of fasting.
Yeah.
But
Mashallah.
not Sharia fasting.
Pious.
Right? Yeah, really pious. But water fasting.
Yeah.
I've been doing that for a few years to try to get back
That
to
must
what
be a world record, man. Few years.
Not bad. The like 4 days, 5 days, 6 days.
Wow, is it?
Yeah.
Only water.
Only water.
Look who's talking, man. He's like, oh, these kids doing these crazy things.
No. But I used to. So you know, you see, here's the thing. I used to do that. That's one thing that I used to do when I was 18, 19, 20.
Water fast?
I used to water fast. Yeah. And
You're talking about dementia, by the way. Apparently, that's a good.
bro, I'm willing to do
protector,
anything to stop
yeah,
that because
inshallah.
I've forgotten everything.
Allah yahfadh.
And I have found that doing that level of extreme kind of breakdown of your own kind of not just toxins, but setting the body on itself, especially from a visceral fat point of view.
Yeah.
Right, which we all know is something that listen. I know I've gone off on a tangent on the health thing, but the point that I wanted to make is that they are so much more health conscious at their age than we ever were. And we need to become relevant in everything, not only what they're seeing, what they're reading, whatever, but also being the examples for them. Now, I'm not now getting fit for, my kids are far fitter than I am. The elders are, into all their gym, whatever, whatnot. But I did used to water fast, right? And I used to control my weight a lot. So when I was an adult, I was very light and thin. I used to be very active and running or whatever. I don't know if people know this. What destroyed me was the dawah, bro. I don't know whether you know, right? You spoke about Adab al-Mufrad, which was the first kind of, the big kind of televised class I did. That killed me.
You're a bit chunky in that.
No. That was like my peak adult 25 or whatever. This is like 25 years ago. And that must have been about 70, 80 kilos, right? And I was, so the plan was being made, and I can't remember the guy's name. You remember him, the Islam channel guy, the one who used to run
Colonel Sanders.
No, the one who did programming for Islam channel.
Come to me in a second.
Anyway, he come to me and he said,
Salahuddin. Yeah.
And there was another guy with him, Imran or something, but his partner, Salahuddin's partner. And they said to me that, okay, so we want to, put your thing on TV. I said, oh, sick. Yeah. This is like the first time. That was before YouTube and everything else.
I'm going to be on TV, man.
Yeah, I'm going to be on TV. Exactly. Yeah. So, but I don't know what your vision for your class is. My vision for my class is, hour, sit, chill. The attraction of Al-Adab al-Mufrad is that it's not really the book Al-Adab al-Mufrad. It's the fact that we've got a hadith that allows me to speak about absolutely everything else except Al-Adab al-Mufrad, right? So it's chilling, it's chatting, it's laugh, it's joke, it's banter. They said, no. For the TV, it's got to last 24 minutes and 30 seconds, right? To allow for 3 breaks. So we record it, they take it, they edit it by putting the 3 breaks in for TV time. It's got to be an hour, 1 minute 30, 1 minute 30, 1 minute 30, and then there's got to be the intro and then the outro to go to the whatever. So you've got to make it that whatever, and you can't move.
You can't move.
You can't move because the camera angles you're going to cause problems. So you've only got one camera, because back in the day we didn't have multiple cameras.
So you're blaming Islam channel for getting
Bro,
back.
watch what happened. This is crazy.
I've heard a few.
The camera X pounds, isn't it? That's what they say.
Listen, camera as pounds.
He says only one camera though.
I went back to Shaz and the PG boys, and I said, listen, I had this meeting with Islam Channel, and they said that it's got to be 24 minutes. So what we got to do is I've got to have a system that gives me a countdown, whatever, and we got to not move. He goes, well, we'll put the camera on the proper tripod, whatever, and you just don't move. I mean, it's simple, just don't move. And we'll have, and the team at that time, they made cards, and they would stand at the back, and massive cards, and it would be 10 minutes, 9 minutes, 8 minutes, right? And that's how I would think, and I would see it, and then I would then start to wrap up. And because I'm an idiot, the way that I was sitting to the people, not moving, is not yani on a chair or cross-legged. I sat in tashahhud, because the religious guy in it. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
So if you go back to Al Adab and you look at the video, you'll see in tashahhud. And I, after about 10, 15 minutes in every lesson, my knee starts going mental. And I would be like dying inside in every single lesson. And remembering his words, don't move, you can't move, you can't move, you can't move. And after maybe about 7 or 8, whatever, whatnot, I tore my meniscus.
SubhanAllah.
Right? And I didn't realize. And so I know it's a funny joke that Al Adab destroyed my thingy. It destroyed both my knees.
SubhanAllah.
And the amount of weight that I put on, because weight loss requires my analysis of it. 3 key factors. Got to have exercise, got to have the diet part, and you got to have that third extra, which is motivation. The first 2 is obvious. Everyone's been speaking for years about that. But the third one is the interesting one. Because motivation should be for the Muslim from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, from the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, to be fit, to be strong, to put the best version forward. Yani, the way that the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam dealt with obesity is amazing. يعني he said لو كان هذا على غير هذا أو في غير هذا لكان خيرا لك. Pointing out, guys, thingy, pot belly. And the hadith doesn't say that you need to be thin, but he said that if this was somewhere else, meaning if it was in your heart, not the fat, not the fat, the terkeez, the intensity. In the, as a scholar said, in the brain. If the brain power was that overcompensated, or the heart was being overcompensated as opposed to your, it'd be so much better for you, right? So that's for us. Today, that motivation comes from Manjaro. Today, that motivation comes from a gastric sleeve operation. Today, that motivation comes from whatever. Everybody needs that third part, right? You can't sustain it just on exercise and diet. You need people like a family member to help you, or you need a spiritual source of guidance, or you need motivation by an injection, getting rid of the first 20, and then you believing that you can do this. And then you carry it forward with the rest. And so, I mean, that's again another tangent. Everyone's got to get fitter. Everyone's got to, identify that motivating factor and then lock in and then put that work in. And it's not difficult, especially for a Muslim when you've got fasts and you just adjust it and you can make it longer and the like. Anyway, subhanAllah, exercise for me was very, very important. And even though I relied upon the other 2 factors, once exercise was taken out, bro, I put on nearly, over the years, maybe 30, 40 kilos. Had 3 operations on my right knee to try to save it, 2 on my left. All of the exercise I tried to do whilst being overweight, tore all of my hernia, inguinal, everything, couldn't strain, can't lift, whatever, whatnot. And so the last 15, 20 years has just been a battle up and down, extreme dieting, extreme minimal exercise because of how much pain I'm on lower body. And the like. Anyway, the reason I say this is because we are not fit role models, neither ideologically, neither physically. And this manosphere part, when it comes to this young kids, they are taking physical fitness really important. If they don't see their parents involved in sport, neither from an entertainment point of view or physically, if they can't relate to them in terms of appearance and style and cool and X, Y, and Z, you're already giving them the excuse to get out. We haven't even started talking about sabak and punishment and you're boring and deen is boring, whatever, whatnot. If they don't even respect you as an individual, if they don't even respect you physically, and they've got all these other influences. And we've always said that, that if you're not your child's best friend, then there's 100 other people, institutions, movements, ideologies that are waiting to be that. Well, now it's 1 million, right? And now some of them even claim to be Muslim, whether it's Andrew Tate or Sneeko or iSpeed or whatever these things are. I have no idea whether they're Muslim or not. It doesn't matter to me. But Islam is cool. And they make it look cool, but their version of it.
Yeah.
So forget about the detailed tarbiyah and issues, whatever, whatnot. Yani we're not even at the
Connecting.
even connecting.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
So
And for the
connect to your
girls-
kids. That would be when you mention your generation. I was going to say our generation, but mashallah, you're probably the generation above me. Mashallah, tabarakallah. But even my generation, I think a big part of what saved so far, a lot of us was just maybe our parents didn't know who we hang around with, and they had maybe extended too much trust. But there's got to be that maybe their du'as or their personal connection with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala as well. That if I think about me or some of my friends and I got up to, and the freedom that we had, I would never give my kids that level of freedom. But maybe their tawakkul was pure, and that's why Allah.
Their sincerity,
Yeah.
their level of ibadah. This is what we've been speaking about in the last couple of lessons of logical progression. That if you look across all cultures, African, Turkish, Asian, whatever, if you define the way that our parents and grandparents as a generation react to good news, they immediately thank Allah, pray to raka'ah, give sadaqah.
Always.
As someone who gets cured is alhamdulillah, pray to raka'ah, give thingy. Our reaction is, man, I told you that guy was good. I told you that surgeon was sick. I told you this medication is the one that works. I told you I need to follow that hack mode. Alhamdulillah. It's not like we're kuffs. It's not like we don't believe in Allah, but our environment has made us focus on the wrong order. We've switched it up. We're focusing on the wrong thing. And it's not even like that's haram to believe that helped you, but it's part of the sabab from the real source. Parents never even, there wasn't even in their thingy at all. So their connection to ibadah, their likelihood to have their dua to be, it's a very good point, by the way. You're comparing the impact of our parents' du'as for us versus our du'as for us. We don't even pray Fajr properly. We don't pray Salah. No one attends masjid anymore. People finding so kind of many excuses to not be with the community, study, to hold deen out, values, compared to, our parents who were ignorant, who were simple, and blessed are the ignorant and the simple. Blessed are the ignorant and simple.
The historian Dr. Yaqub Ahmed, in one of our older podcasts, he said, our parents received Islam via osmosis. And then it got me thinking, osmosis, it's the movement of something pure, water across a membrane, And it's all around you. You don't have to sit down to someone and say, do this. It's just, they just absorbed it. How do we grab onto something of this for our next generation then? To raise proud, confident Muslims?
You know what? Even that, you see, I think sometimes we make it a target, and our parents didn't separate it. They would just be. So this thing you're saying about like sadaqah, our relationship with sadaqah is so poor.
So poor. So poor. You tell a person, ما نقص المال من الصدقة. Okay? He will say, but bro, that's my wallet, and that's 20 quid, and that 20 quid just disappeared. Right? And, there are some people who cannot get past the empirical, who cannot get past the physical. They look at a hadith and they have no connection to akhirah, to that which not can be seen, that can't be observed, and the like. Sadaqah is a perfect example. People cannot see other benefits other than what's immediate in front of them. Because we're transactional, we're empirical. We need to see it actually happen.
And they only see sadaqah as charity, whereas our parents' generation would perform so many different forms of sadaqah and give without even thinking it's charity. So-and-so's family, daughters get married, send some clothes for them, take some gifts. All of these things we've lost. Stop at the lights. Helps.
Even if even in language, sadaqah jama.
Yeah, exactly. And I think the other thing, Sheikh, is that, hospitality for guests. I've just seen it like, we don't go to each other's houses anymore.
Cowards, bro. This is a coward generation. People who are brave. Listen, there's a reason why the karam and shuja'a are the two linked values, right? When you talk about the Bedouins, the villagers, the Arabs, the Afghans, the people of generosity, When you think of what defined them, it was generosity and bravery, because you cannot be generous without being brave. And our parents had jack diddly squat, and they would bring your cousin over and their cousin over and their uncle, and you sleep here and you sleep there, this, that, whatever, whatnot. And they wouldn't worry about the annual expenses and we'll pay for it, blah, blah, blah. Sadaqah day and night. They don't have a lot to give, but they kept it consistent. They didn't fear poverty. They didn't worry about the consequences. Whereas the cowards that we are, and everyone else in the modern kind of Muslim diaspora, so afraid of losing out, so chicken, that this will take from my experience, this will reduce my maza, this will take my personal space, this is what, and that's actually understandable when you have people who don't have patience, when you have people who don't have tolerance, when you have people who are worried about whatever. It's very interesting, we were speaking about Hajj earlier on, that there is a market for the ultra high net worth Muslims and rich Muslims, which is completely halal, and there's no problem with that. And I push certain people that way as well. But it's interesting to see that the person that is choosing that is because they say, I can't possibly imagine being in a tent with 50 people, or I can't imagine, I have to have a double, or I have to have a single room, to interact and deal with the stress of 3 other people who are strangers. I earn enough to not have to let me go through that. And that goes to show to you that this is not about a financial problem. It's not about whether you can afford it or not afford it. It's actually the damage which is being caused to you.
So how do we fix that?
Honestly, that's why our Hajj program is called a Tarbiyah program.
Yeah.
Right? It's not a Hajj package. It's a Tarbiyah program. And some people love it and some people hate it. People are like, listen, that guy and his package, it's not Hajj. It's like intense madness. He takes over your life.
It's military fitness.
100%. You have to create a zone where if this is the objective, and my objective is that I'm going to take people, and if they don't know about salah, then I'm going to teach you salah. And if you don't know how to make wudu, then I'm going to teach you about wudu. And if you don't like getting wet, then I'm going to show you that it's okay to get wet. And if you don't ever done it with a little bit of water as per the sunnah, I'm going to show you in person how that happens. And if you don't like being with other people, then I'm going to be in the room with the same people that are snoring and that are X and that are Y, and I'm going to show you how you can deal with it. And if you don't like waiting for this area, I'm going to be sitting next to you waiting as well. I'm not going to be in X class and separate and whatever, blah, blah, blah. And if you're worried about your kids, we're going to have sessions about your kids. And if you are willing to go as far as I am, then you're going to be able to protect your kids as well. But you've got to make a decision. Are you a liberal, or are you actually now an orthodox traditional practicing Muslim? You've got to be taking people out their comfort zone. Whenever you get an opportunity, and every teacher, every da'i, every murabbi, every person who is in a position of responsibility or authority, whether that's because they run a Hajj program, or whether they run a class, or whether they run a school, I believe Allah will hold these people royally accountable for being soft upon their people. Just giving them that knowledge, just being mu'allimeen, just giving that data transfer, as opposed to emotionally investing in that person, intellectually investing in that person, giving them the tarbiyah that they should be given. And the truth is that, especially the Hajj scene, it is so poor. It is so poor. Some of the biggest criminals, and I don't mean the criminals in the classic fraud, take your money and run away with it criminals. No, I mean those people who are loved. They have speakers with them, scholars with them, whatever, whatnot. They don't make it about the Hajji. When things go wrong, or they don't put the effort in that they should, maximum, showing people what the deen teaches people at the professional level. Like, professional standards is here, and ihsan at the deen level is way above your professional standards. So I'm going to treat you, I'm going to look after you, I'm going to support you through nusuk process, I'm going to support you through this process, like Islam would want me to, not as a professional, because it's not a job and it's not my paid position. So I have to go to a different set of standards in a way. And ihsan is far more exacting and far more demanding. And I'm going to prove it to you so that when you then are by yourself and you got a chance to interact with another Muslim or non-Muslim, and you got a decision to road rage against that person, or to swear against that person in the street, or to be involved in the masjid, or whatever environment, you're acting at an Islamic ihsan level and not a businessman level. And so you've got Muslims that are businessmen that run packages and programs, and when something goes wrong, they say, Haji, sabr, Haji, this is Hajj. Can you believe, how disgraceful a statement that is, to try to use the divine concept of sabr as an excuse for their deficiency, for their incontinence as well, yeah. For their incompetence, for their negligence, and put it upon the Hajj and make them feel guilty that you should have sabr Hajji. You didn't foresee this coming. Yeah, you didn't predict this. You didn't know that was going to happen. You didn't prepare the people for this. And so when it happens, you're going to say sabr Hajji and put it them on, use deen for your basis for abuse. Well, this is the reason why I went so full into the Hajj program, right? And that tarbiyah kind of thing. Just to show the Muslims that, you know what, that's not how it's meant to be done. It's unacceptable to abuse people. By the way, that's if they were doing this for free. What about when they pay tens of thousands of pounds? They pay money for that service and you do that. You should not be abusing Muslims with the negligence and poor behavior, even if it was for free. Let alone when they are paying for a service and you're involved in some way. And
this episode was sponsored by Hajj with AE.
It wasn't. It wasn't.
They don't know that
we
yet.
Don't want to sponsor because we are oversubscribed. We are too many people, and we don't like to disappoint folks. This year, unfortunately, again, lots of people got left behind because of the way that the system is, and it's just.
Let's talk about the system briefly, right? If somebody wants to go Hajj because it's completely changed,
they've got to lock in.
Completely
Simple. Let's not make this about Hajj because no one is present in Hajj. Yeah. You got to for the next 5 years, you've got to be planning, make your decision in September and October of the year before. That's the key.
Can you still go with a group?
You can still go with a group that will be guiding you, but that group has no actual legal or financial standing. All of the legals, all of the immigration, all of the documents, all of the money goes to Saudi Arabia, the government, the portal that they've created, which is Nusuk. And the people that you know are probably still doing it, but they are now guiding a program that's run by those Saudi entities. The key to remember is that do not make your Hajj a tick box exercise. Find people that are going to give you the best Islamic experience, and not just during it, but I mean during the process, which is itself is a really tough process. We call it the Hajj before the Hajj. It's like a lottery. It's like paperwork. It's like being understanding photo bots and resizing and stuff that is not normal for people. And so that needs preparation. The Islamic development during the Hajj itself, but also afterwards. You shouldn't be abandoned by the people that you invest so much time with. A scholar that is meant to be leading a group. And what are they? Hajj with so-and-so. And that guy's wheeled out to give a lecture and then wheeled back out. You don't see him again for the thing. He doesn't know you from Adam, doesn't see you again for whatever, no communication. My parents, when they, even they were not even Islamic programs, but my parents, when they speak about the guy they went to go Hajj with, they smile.
Yeah.
They're like, man, that guy was with us, and he ate with us, he stayed with us, and he's always remembering our names, and he's in contact with us. And when I wanted this from him afterwards, he was whatever. I saw him the other day. There's a connection.
Hajj is
different. Huh?
Did they go with you?
No, they didn't go with me. Obviously, they didn't go with me, bro. They're about attack. They go with me. It was just kind of bakwas. Yeah. So, whereas now we just want to go with our favorite speaker. Bro, that's the worst person to go with. Do not go to Hajj with your favorite speaker. Bit red flag. You go with a Hajj program that doesn't have a speaker, that the program itself is about building you, developing you there, and afterwards going to continue your tarbiyah, continue being there for you, giving you an Islamic outlet for all of your needs and everything. Bro, we've been here for hours, man. What the hell's going on?
Yeah. It's time for Maghrib soon.
Yeah, can we?
It's time for Maghrib now.
Not yet. Right now, huh?
Yep, just came in.
Okay.
So you want to call it a night?
You didn't even give me a drink.
I could go on for hours.
You've hidden your orange. Bring that into the camera and show if that's boycott. I bet that's a boycott brand.
Probably
100%. You hid your orange juice from a boycotted brand.
Joe and the Jews.
Joe's juice and the Joe. Joe and the juice. Joe and the juice.
Joe and the
That
juice.
better not be Joe and the juice.
Joe and the juice, yeah.
Oh, juice. Joe and the juice. Astaghfirullah. So. Where's my drink here?
Shall I get a drink?
Yeah, I've got it.
It's the du'a these days, man. Come on. Where's my latte?
Caramel with matcha avocado.
Hi. MashaAllah.
Gay lattes.
What about for the fellas?
For the fellas, exactly. Well done. That might be the best thing you've said all day, Salman. That's the same manosphere. I'm ready to sign up to that.
Everyone's signing up to manosphere, bro. MashaAllah.
Gay lattes for the gays, bro. Bring us the proper drink. Well done. Jazakumullah khair, guys.
On that bombshell.
Barakallah feek. It's always nice to be with you guys.
Barakallah feek.
pleasure.
That's why I do it all the time every year.
Yeah, mashallah. Jazakallah khair,
Barakallah
Shaykh
feek.
Abu Eesa,
Wafaqakallah.
Omar, and Jazakallah khairan to you at home for watching. If you like this podcast, as usual, give a like and a share, and just get involved with the comments below. Until next time, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Wa alaikum assalam.
Salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.